ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಏನು 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿನ ಭಾಳ ಹಠಾತ್ತಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ಹೇರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಅಖಿಲ ಭಾರತ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಉಳಿಸಿ ಸಮಿತಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಘಟಕದಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನು ವಿರೋಧಿಸಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ, ಜಿಲ್ಲಾ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನಾವಿದನ್ನು ವಿರೋಧಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಭಾಳ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಕಾರಣ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು ಈ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಇದು ಅತ್ಯಂತ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ವಿರೋಧಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳು 1 ವರ್ಷ ಹೆಚ್ಚುವರಿಯಾಗಿ ಓದಬೇಕು. ಇವತ್ತು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ 100ಕ್ಕೆ 75ರಷ್ಟು ಕಾಲೇಜುಗಳು, ಅಂದರೆ 75% ಕಾಲೇಜುಗಳು ಖಾಸಗಿ ವಲಯದಲ್ಲಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದಾಗಿ ಪೋಷಕರು ದುಬಾರಿ ಡೊನೇಷನ್ನು, ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟೇಷನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಓದಿಸೋಂಥ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ನಿರ್ಮಾಣ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅನಾವಶ್ಯಕ ಇದು ಒಂದು. ಎರಡನೇದಾಗಿ ಇದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಕರ ವಿರೋಧಿಯಾಗಿದೆ ಇದು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಕೆನ 4 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಬದಲಾಗಿ 2 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಇಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಕೆ ಕೇವಲ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಗೆ ಸೀಮಿತಗೊಳಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ಭಾಷೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಉನ್ನತ ಮಾನವಿಕ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳು, ಉದಾತ್ತ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡೋ ಒಂದು ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೂಡ ಹೊಡೆತ ಬಿದ್ದಿದೆ. ಇದು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ನೀತಿ 2020ರ ಭಾಗ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇದು ಈ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ವಿರೋಧಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇನ್ನು ಮೂರನೇದಾಗಿ ಈ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿ ಇವರೇನಿವತ್ತು ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನರಿ ಅಂತ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್ಸು ಕರಿಕ್ಯುಲಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಇಂಟರ್ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನರಿ ಇತ್ತು ಇದನ್ನು ಸರ್ವನಾಶ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇವಾಗ ಈ ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನರಿ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕೆಫೆಟೇರಿಯಾ ಅಪ್ರೋಚನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಮಗ್ರವಾದ ಜ್ಞಾನ, ಸಮಗ್ರವಾದ ತಿಳುವಳಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಮಾರಕ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಈ ಕಾರಣಗಳಿಂದಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು ವಿರೋಧಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಈ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿನ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ತರ್ತಾ ಇರೋದೇ ಕೆಲವು ಶ್ರೀಮಂತರ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳು ಏನಿದೆ ಇವತ್ತು, ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳು, ಅವರಿಗೆ ಲಾಭ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅನುಕೂಲ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ತಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ವಿರೋಧಿ, ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಕ ವಿರೋಧಿ, ಜ್ಞಾನ ವಿರೋಧಿ, ಹಾಗೆ ಬಡವರ ಪರ, ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣ ಪ್ರದೇಶದ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿದೆ ಇದು ಈ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿ ಕೋರ್ಸು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಲವಾರು ಜನ ನಮ್ಮ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಕರು, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ಸು, ಮಾಜಿ ಉಪಕುಲಪತಿಗಳು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾವು ಲಿಂಕನ್ನು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನಾವು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಈ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿಯ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸಿಗ್ನೇಚರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಅದರ ಲಿಂಕನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಹಿ ಹಾಕಿ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ರಿಲೇಟಿವ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಇದನ್ನು ಕಳಿಸಿ. ಇದರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾಪಕ ಜನಾಭಿಪ್ರಾಯನ ನಾವು ಬೆಳೆಸಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಫೋನ್ ನಂಬರು ಕೂಡ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನಾವು ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮಗೇನೇ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ದರೆ, ಸಲಹೆಗಳಿದ್ದರೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಸಂಪರ್ಕಿಸಿ. ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆಯಾಗಿ ನಮಗನ್ಸೋದು ಇವತ್ತು ಅಖಿಲ ಭಾರತ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಉಳಿಸಿ ಸಮಿತಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರಾಜ್ಯ ಘಟಕದಿಂದ ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನಗಳು ಒಂದಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಉಳಿಸಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಈ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಪದವಿ ಏನು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ನೀತಿ 2020ರ ಭಾಗ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಇದು ಇಡೀ ಉನ್ನತ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣನ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ವ್ಯಾಪಾರೀಕರಣಗೊಳಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇದನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಸರಕನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಹುನ್ನಾರನ ಸೋಲ್ಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದಾಗಬೇಕು. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಕೈ ಜೋಡಿಸಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ತಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮನವಿನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
At the outset, I congratulate the Karnataka State Unit of AISEC for holding this convention against the 4-year degree course, which is being introduced in the state. I also express my thankfulness to Professor Shukdev Thorat, Professor A. Murigappa, Professor Allam Prabhu Vittaduru, Professor Dr. Mahavalash Rao, and others who have joined this meeting in different capacities or are listening to it. I know for certain that whatever I talk about are much known to you. Even then, the issue is so important, as it has been pointed out by Professor Shukdev Thorat and must be by A. Murigappa. Unfortunately, I couldn't follow his language. Anyway, they have already indicated that the issue is important. So I feel there are points which may be reiterated and highlighted. So I'll place them in brief.
Hello.
Yes.
Good
Coming to
morning.
the
Yes,
issue, the project of 4-year degree course, as per the prescriptions of the NEP 2020, will be intimately associated with several other concepts and measures, namely CBCS, multidisciplinary courses, multiple exit option, entry-exit options, 3 categories of higher education institutions like research intensive universities, teaching universities, and degree granting autonomous colleges. All these cannot be discussed in detail here. I will refer to them in connection with the points I will be touching upon. My first question, I put it in slightly different way from the Professor Thorat. Professor Thorat has placed it very nicely, how this policy has been framed, what are the lackings. My first question is, how do or should the policymakers frame a national policy for a country, national education policy for a country? Is it not expected that they judge the prevailing system and situation, mark out the loopholes, drawbacks, and shortcomings, and then chalk out the policy to get rid of those so that the system develops smoothly, comprehensively, including or incorporating the needs of the hour? Now, what is done here? Presently, our system includes 10-year secondary, 2-year higher secondary, 3-year honors, undergraduate, and then 2-year postgraduate. The NEP 2020 suggests a major structural change. Professor Thorat has indicated it. I am repeating it. The undergraduate degree of either 3 or 4-year duration with multiple exit options within the period with appropriate certifications. For example, a certificate after completing 1 year in a discipline or field, including vocational or professional areas, or a diploma after 2 years of study, or a bachelor degree after 3-year program. The 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's program, however, shall be, I underline this word, preferred one. The reason? It will be holistic and multidisciplinary. So at least in black and white, the 4-year course is an option, is one of the options, though it is the preferred one. Does such a change with so many options improve the present system? Does it bring any benefits at all? Rather, on the face value, as it has been indicated in your write-ups, in your speeches, as also by Professor Thorat, that the suggested change, that is 4-year course, will extend the time and thus its cost, which in the present situation will only add still heavier burden on common students already under the yoke of fast rising high cost of education. It may be argued that those who won't be able to bear it may go for other options. But just think about it. What will a student do with a 1-year certificate or a 2-year diploma or even a 3-year degree when there is a preferred one of 4 years? Will those be of any worth in life? And as Professor Thorat indicated, in job market? Is it not a sheer discrimination to create so many differently equipped branches, thereby restricting education, carteling education for many. Do not the three categories of higher education institutions, as mentioned earlier, also reflect similar shameful discrimination? Can research and education be separated from each other? Do not common students of autonomous colleges have the right to enjoy the fruits of researches for development of their education? Next point, in common parlance of education and other allied issues, a discipline connotes a branch of knowledges. For instance, science, humanities, commerce, fine arts. It may be further subdivided. For example, in science, there are physical sciences, biosciences, art sciences, social sciences. Nowadays, students are allowed, mainly depending on available infrastructure, some such subjects like, say, molecular biology or geophysics, etc., which are really interdisciplinary courses. Interdisciplinary. What does it mean? Here, students are introduced to different advanced branches, and the subjects brought together complement each other to reach some specialized comprehensive knowledge that has become necessary in present day life. So the subjects are mutually complementary, supplementary. In natural course of development of knowledge, the boundaries between disciplines are thus getting diffused, and more interdisciplinary courses are coming up. Now, multidisciplinary knowledge of NEP 2020 replaces this interdisciplinary. A student may choose to learn subjects from different disciplines. How? Think of a situation, likely situation. A student chooses physics, music, and literature in school or in college. In college, it may be physics. He may choose physics as the major. With such a combination, will the student be benefited by any wholesome, comprehensive knowledge? No. It is the development of comprehensive knowledge which will be the first theme. Then what made the policymakers jump upon this phrase of multidisciplinary and holistic? In dairy courses, they have spent 11.1 to 11.8 sections of higher education chapter of the final document on this holistic multidisciplinary education. The phrase is meant by them to indicate that such an education had an Indian origin in the ancient Indian universities like Takshashila, Nalanda, etc., as well as in the Greek pursuit of all-round knowledge through the trivium. Grammar, trivium means grammar, logic, and rhetoric, or the quadrivium, arithmetic, astronomy, geometry, music. They have added, it is a quote from the NEP 2020. This is required because the pedagogical approach, it is the pedagogical approach followed by globally recognized universities in the West in the present time. It created and creates this multidisciplinary course, created and creates well-rounded and innovative individuals. This is their aim, and is already transforming other countries educationally and economically. Among the other countries, the first is the USA. I request you to judge it. Can this be a rationale for a change in the policy? No doubt, Takshashila and Nalanda and other centers of India or the Greek institutes were great centers of learning. But has the world of knowledge stopped evolving any further since then? Have the Greek or European modern institutions remained content with those old trivium and quadrivium? Can the courses and methods of those great seats of learning of the past serve the demands and necessities of the present complex world? No, they cannot. The policymakers know that. So the policymakers themselves had to bring in the instances of so-called presently successful method system institutions of other countries, namely the USA. But can any country's education system be developed and strengthened by copying from another country? Do India and the USA have similar mindset, similar familial, social, national problems that students face? No, they don't. So the present policymakers try to convince people that our system, which is running now, follows the British model with heavy weight given to English. It must be Indianized. So they look back to ancient times. But they, the rulers and the policymakers, know it certain that it would be suicidal for them to rest entirely upon that traditionalism. So they raised the slogan of India leading 21st century education. And for that, they copy from the USA and paste it in India. As Professor Thorat has adequately and competently, very beautifully placed. In fact, all the associates of the 4-year degree course, namely the CBCS, multiple exit, entry, etc., all are tried and often failed systems in other countries like the USA. Then why the policymakers are going after that? I propose to answer this question after discussing another issue. Professor Thorat has given an answer. I'm adding to it. Once the emerging new social system in the world tended to create an education system for a country which could guide the society, including its science, industry, economy, and everything, to take the right course to progress. The society then recognized that to serve the purpose, it will require men and women who should be armed with rationality, comprehensive knowledge, scientific, secular, democratic outlook for life, and courage to face challenges to innovate newer and newer avenues. At that time, education stood for performing a man-making, character-building role. Professor Somasekhar has mentioned it. Education at that time led society. But now, throughout the world, human society appears to be in dire strait. It is in a sort of moribund stage, swamped in all-out crisis with anarchy, uncertainty, insecurity being the order of the day. Frantic for surviving, this dying society is advocating for an education system which will feed and so run after its politics, industry, economy, and technology. So now education is towing behind the society, which itself is running helter-skelter. This is going on all through the decades of independence in India. The difference lies in the degree, ferocity, and meanness involved, which are unabatedly increasing. This happens in this case too. Lastly, I again quote from the NEP 2020. You note it, quote, high-performing India universities will be encouraged to set up campuses in other countries. And similarly, selected universities, as for example, those from among the top 100 universities in the world, will be facilitated to operate in India? Is it meant for development of education, or do not these exchanges necessarily follow as India is a signatory of the GATS WTO and the World Bank sponsored treaties and projects like the STARS? These view education as unique commodity for global market and India as a lucrative part and partner of that market. Now it is your turn to decide, is this copy-paste method to fulfill the conditions of a dictation may be accepted or fought tooth and nail? This is discriminatory, the policy is discriminatory. This is creating hindrance for the common poorer people, students, or higher education to have access to higher education. Whether you should accept it or fight tooth and nail, that is your choice. The AISEC has decided to fight and would earnestly look for your support to our movement, material, moral, financial, if you happen to think in the affirmative. I have placed in very brief words my views on this, why they are going for it. Now, thanking you once again, I end my deliberations here. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Professor Anis Kumar Ray. Thank you very much.